Good morning. I am Kevin Price. Delighted to be with you today, talking to you about you and your business. Let's talk a little bit about this new national coalition formed to fight for the rights of independent contractors. Reading in Politico.com that they brought former U.S. Senator Blanche Lincoln, a Democrat from Arkansas, to head up the coalition. And Senator Lincoln, welcome to our program.
Well, thanks, Kevin. I'm glad to be on your program. Delighted to join you, and glad to know that Houston is, as usual, hot south.
Yeah, it is. It's usual hot south. No question about it. So, Senator Lincoln, tell us a little bit about the coalition and what their objectives are.
Well, the coalition's great, Kevin. It's I've spent most of my life in public service fighting for small businesses, independent contractors, and those people who really are driving the economy in this country by creating jobs. And what we're doing is trying to create raise an awareness and bring about an awareness about the positive impacts that are made by independent contractors in the U.S. economy and job market, and also make sure that those independent contractors know what's kind of going on in Washington. There's an awful lot that comes out of Washington, a tremendous amount of uncertainty. And through the rules and regulations, there's oftentimes efforts to try to change things. And right now we're seeing that there is an effort in the agencies to try to really kind of tap down on independent contractors. Now, independent contractors are small businesses, family-owned businesses who obviously have their own responsibilities, and they know that in terms of paying their state and federal taxes. They also have to cover health care for them and for their families. And so, they've got responsibilities. But to take away their ability as an independent contractor to create a business model that's flexible for them and allows them to grow their businesses the way that they want to grow them, to run their businesses the way that they want to run them, is something that we just think is unnecessary and detrimental to the economy. So we want to make sure that they know and understand what's going on in Washington, and more importantly, that we bring an awareness with everyone here in this country about the great contribution they make to the economy, and the efforts that we are making to try and make sure that they have all the information they need to be able to weigh in on what might or might not be happening in Washington.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to me because I talk a lot to independent contractors as well. I have a lot of different representative organizations on, and it's interesting because, you served in the Senate, I guess, since, 1999? Was when you began your Senate?
I did. I served in the House prior to that, but I was in the Senate.
That's right. You were in the House for quite a while. So you had almost 20 years experience almost in Congress.
That's
and
yes. Mm-hmm.
But your reelection, you lost in 2010. I'm thinking that Obamacare, which is like a piranha in the mind of independent contractors, had to play a role in how you did in 2010. What is your thoughts about that?
Oh, no, I think independent contractors, may have been somewhat confused about what was coming forward in the Affordable Care Act, but which wasn't perfect, but it was a good start on something that we had to do. I mean, if you look at the amount of resources that health care is costing this country as a percentage of our GDP, we have to do something.
Right.
And as it moves along, there's some things that, I was supportive of a few of the things that Secretary Sebelius pulled out. I was opposed to them in the beginning of the Affordable Care Act. But, some things work, some things don't. But if we stop and become stagnant and don't try to do things, that becomes a problem. But these independent contractors know that they are responsible for their health care and the health care of their families. At small businesses, most more so than not, they're going to be exempt because they'll probably be under 50 employees. In terms of some of the mandates, but they will still have access to some of the exchange. They will have access to the exchanges that will hopefully provide them, greater access to health insurance that comes at a lower cost and better coverage.
Yeah, Thomas Sowell. Forgive me to interrupt because We only have so much time, and I do have a lot to want to cover. You know, Thomas Sowell, the economist, laid out the various costs of healthcare as it is today. And then he asked at the end, so tell me how somehow adding the cost of government involvement in that is somehow going to be cheap, make it cheaper. The only way that's ever been done, and I know from firsthand experience, my grandfather was passed away before his time because the government in England determined that it didn't make economic sense for him to continue to get treatments because he was no longer a taxpayer. And there's language in the affordable health care that includes panels. We don't want to call them death panels because let's face it, that's kind of creepy, but have economic decisions driven by boards and not by doctor-patient relationships. And that's the norm in Western Europe. You know, and then when you look at the economic dynamics, when you left in 2010, the debt wasn't at $17 trillion yet, but it would be within a couple of years, and it's certainly moving in that direction. Our debt now is greater than our gross domestic product, which means we're going to become a lot like Japan which has had economic stagnation now for our last 2 decades. I mean, I don't know. I don't see how any of that helps independent contractors.
You're right.
Well,
fixing the debt is critical.
How did Obamacare contribute to helping the debt crisis?
Well, as I said, over the next 2 decades, or 3 decades actually, if we don't bring down the cost curve of what healthcare is costing us in this country, then the debt is going to be out of control all over again. And we've done very little to rein it in. You know, we're seeing obviously the debt ceiling votes that the members of Congress have to take is getting pushed off into the fall. But the fact is the debt that we have and the deficit spending that we continue, unless we deal with healthcare, which is such an enormous part of our GDP, we've got to get more people. The expansion, the 2 basic principles under the Affordable Care Act were the expansion of coverage and getting more people covered, and wellness, providing well care, you know, so that people will live healthier lives. It's giving businesses and industries and insurers the ability to say, you know, there's some lifestyle changes that are important, and we're going to incentivize those lifestyle changes, whether it's, smoking cessation, whether it's weight management, whether it's diabetes management, whether it's heart management, and a whole host of other things, so that we can encourage Americans to live healthier lives, which means in the end, their cost of overall health care is going to go down. And those are things that are going to be done. There are no panels in here that are going to tell doctors what they can and cannot do. There are panels that are going to be able to hopefully allow for patients to have the conversations with their physicians about what they need to do and how they need to do it. That's what, in many instances, up until now, we haven't been able to do in terms of what doctors can, whether it's in weight management. That doctors don't get reimbursed for weight, or under the previous healthcare systems that we've had, doctors don't get reimbursed for counseling and providing weight management counseling and directives. And those are very important things that keep Americans healthier. So, but that's kind of off the track. Our point here is that you've got dentists and lawyers, you've got financial planners, designers, hairstylists, real estate agents, personal trainers, professional tutors, software engineers, stockbrokers.
Yes, Senator, I'm sorry.
Everybody under the sun
I got to ramp
that
it up.
are independent contractors.
Senator Blanche Lincoln from Arkansas. Now she's with the National Coalition fighting for the rights of independent contractors. You can learn more about them at itsmybusiness.com. Thanks for being with us.
Great, Kevin. Good to be with you.
All right. When we come back, much more. Do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com. While there, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter.